When a smug tourist believed his money gave him the right to taunt a royal guard, he ignited a spectacle on Red Square that no one could have predicted. Lieutenant James Wilson's calm facade was put to the ultimate test, leading to a reaction that left the crowd gasping in disbelief. Just as chaos seemed inevitable, an unexpected act of kindness flipped the script, transforming mockery into awe. What happened next not only silenced the provocateurs, but also reshaped the very essence of respect and tradition. Ready to see how it all unraveled? The London morning was alive with its usual hustle. Red Square bustled with tourists eager to snap photos of the Royal Guard. Among the disciplined soldiers stood Lieutenant James Wilson, mid-40s, impeccable uniform, and a gaze that could cut steel. James took pride in every detail of his attire, embodying British tradition with unwavering dedication. Crowds swarmed the square, most respectful, but a group of young tourists quickly disrupted the peace. Leading them was Alex, tall and loud, radiating entitlement. "Hey man, give us a smile. Come on, show us your best grin," he shouted, trying to provoke a reaction from James. James stayed stoic, his expression unchanged, but the tension was thick. Alex wasn't alone. His friends joined in, laughing and taunting. "Yeah man, loosen up a bit. You're making us look bad." One reached out, attempting to tug at James's hat. "How about a wave? Or even a dance?" Seriously, who does that? It was just over the line. Tourists treating a national symbol like a prop for selfies. James took a deep breath, his jaw tightening. "Please respect our tradition," he replied calmly, his British accent crisp. Simple enough, but they weren't getting the message. Alex smirked, undeterred. "Oh, we respect it all right. We respect it enough to make a fool of ourselves for a few likes." He tossed coins at James's feet, watching them clink against his polished boots with a satisfied grin. The crowd split instantly. Some found Alex's antics amusing, snapping photos and laughing along. Others frowned, shaking their heads at the blatant disrespect. It was a classic clash between old-world dignity and new-age irreverence. James stood his ground, every muscle showing his training and commitment. He watched as Alex pushed boundaries further. "We're paying for this experience," Alex declared loudly. "So, what's the point if you don't entertain us?" Finally, James couldn't hold back. "Look around you," he said, his voice firm. "These traditions are part of our history, our identity. They're not here for your entertainment." His words hung in the air, a stark reminder of respect and honor. Alex, sensing the crowd's shift, tried one last jab. Yeah, whatever. Hope you don't mind us mocking you all day. It's what we do." As Alex and his group walked away, the tension eased. James watched them go, frustration and disappointment etched on his face. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some applauded his firmness, others still chuckled. It was clear. The battle between tradition and entitlement was just beginning. Sometimes, you might think, it feels like some people have forgotten what respect truly means. Seriously, you've got to be kidding me. James resumed his post, unshaken but aware that today's clash was far from over. As the morning sun climbed higher, the initial provocation from Alex and his crew only intensified. What started as harmless teasing quickly spiraled into outright disrespect. Alex and his friends weren't just content with verbal jabs anymore. They escalated their antics, turning Red Square into their personal playground of chaos. "Look at this!" Alex shouted, tossing a handful of coins toward the guards. They clinked against Lieutenant James Wilson's polished boots with a careless flick. "Hey, guard! Catch something!" It was as if throwing coins was some sort of sport, and James was just the target for their amusement. Seriously, who does that? It's beyond disrespectful. These tourists treating a symbol of national pride like a mere prop for their selfies and petty games. James remained unfazed, his expression a mask of calm professionalism. "Please respect our traditions," he replied once more, his tone firm but polite. But Alex wasn't having it. One of Alex's friends, Mike, decided to up the ante. He grabbed James's shako and held it above his head, attempting to snap a photo with the hat dangling mockingly. "Say cheese," Mike laughed, oblivious to the growing disapproval in the crowd. Come on, give us something to remember this by. James took a deep breath, the subtle clench of his jaw barely noticeable. Please, I ask you again, respect our traditions, he said, his British accent crisp and unwavering. But the message wasn't getting through. Alex leaned in closer, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, we respect it all right. We respect it enough to make a fool of ourselves for a few likes. The crowd began to split. Some tourists found Alex's behavior hilarious, snapping photos and laughing along. Others frowned, shaking their heads in disapproval. It was a clear divide. Those who sided with the old-world dignity of the Royal Guard versus the new-age irreverence of entitled tourists. Seriously? You also think he's acting like a complete idiot? Well, of course. The author's voice seemed to echo in the narrative, underscoring the absurdity of the situation. Then came Tom's move. Always the jokester, Tom decided to take things a step further. He reached out and attempted to grab James's ceremonial baton, the hlistka, in a misguided attempt to elicit a reaction. Let's see some action, guard, he taunted, his fingers brushing dangerously close to the weapon. The crowd held its breath. Some burst into laughter, while others looked on with concern. James's eyes narrowed slightly, but he maintained his composure. Please stop, he repeated, his voice now carrying an undercurrent of sternness. This isn't a game. Just when it seemed the situation couldn't get any more out of hand, another tourist, Lisa, decided to involve the horse. She started making loud noises and waving her arms, trying to grab the animal's attention. The horse, already uneasy from the commotion, began to fidget nervously, snorting and pawing the ground. Now, this is where things could have gone terribly wrong. The horse was a powerful creature, and any sudden movement could have led to chaos. But James acted swiftly. With practiced ease, he took control of the horse's reins, calming the animal with a few measured commands. His movements were precise, his presence commanding. Steady, girl, James murmured softly, the horse responding to his calm authority. The crowd watched in awe as the potential disaster was averted in seconds. Whispers of admiration rippled through the onlookers. Wow, he handled that like a pro, someone remarked, capturing the moment on their phone. Alex and his friends stood speechless, the reality of James's competence sinking in. The author's voice returned, dripping with sarcasm yet tinged with approval. We all know the Royal Guard isn't here for entertainment, and these tourists, well, apparently they don't get it. As James regained control, he glanced back at the group of tourists. Alex's bravado had faltered, his friends now looking uneasy. The once lively teasing had turned into a tense silence, broken only by the crowd's murmurs of respect for the guard's professionalism. James straightened his uniform, the sunlight reflecting off his armor. Thank you for your cooperation, he stated calmly, addressing the crowd. The shift in energy was palpable. Those who had sided with the tourists now saw them in a different light, their mockery replaced by embarrassment and disapproval. Look around you, James addressed not just the tourists, but the entire assembly, his voice carrying the weight of tradition and honor. These traditions are part of our history, our identity. They're not here for your entertainment. His words resonated deeply, leaving an impression that words alone couldn't erase. Alex, now visibly deflated, mumbled something incoherent as he and his friends began to disperse. The author's final remark for the chapter felt almost like a sigh of resignation. Sometimes it feels like some people have forgotten what respect truly means. Seriously, you've got to be kidding me. The crowd's reactions had fully transformed. Applause broke out for James, with many tourists expressing their admiration through cheers and captured moments on their devices. James returned to his post, his dignity intact, while the group of disrespectful tourists slinked away, their actions now the subject of whispered critiques rather than laughter. The stage was set for an inevitable showdown. The seeds of conflict had been firmly planted, and the day promised more turmoil as the clash between tradition and entitlement continued to unfold. Just when the conflict seemed destined to escalate, a piercing cry sliced through the tension. A small girl, no older than 5, had lost her way in the bustling crowd. Her tears welled up as she wandered aimlessly, clutching a bright pink balloon that bobbed helplessly above her. Without a second thought, Lieutenant James Wilson broke his disciplined stance and stepped away from his post. The author's voice whispers, "Seriously, who does that? This is beyond the script." James approached the girl with a calm urgency, his authoritative presence immediately soothing her frantic cries. "Hey there, sweetie. What's your name?" James asked gently, kneeling to her level. She sniffled, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "I'm Lily," she replied, her voice shaky. James offered a reassuring smile. "All right, Lily. Let's find your parents together." He took her hand firmly but kindly, guiding her back through the crowd. The onlookers watched in silence, the earlier mockery fading into a collective sense of admiration. Meanwhile, Alex and his friends stood frozen, witnessing the transformation. Rob, one of the group's more reflective members, stepped forward awkwardly. "Hey man, we were just kidding. We didn't mean any harm," he muttered, avoiding James's eyes. James looked at Rob, his expression unchanged, yet filled with quiet strength. "Sometimes the best way to entertain yourself is to help someone in need," he replied with a hint of irony. The author's voice adds, "Well, look at that. Who knew humility could be so disarming?" As James guided Lily back to her frantic parents, the crowd began to shift. Phones emerged, capturing every moment of the lieutenant's genuine compassion. Applause broke out, filling the air with approval. The author's voice comments, "Finally, some respect. It's about time someone reminded them what dignity looks like." Lily's parents rushed forward, enveloping James in a grateful embrace. "Thank you so much," her mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. James nodded, his duty fulfilled with grace. The video of his act of kindness spread like wildfire on social media, amassing thousands of likes and heartwarming comments overnight. Alex watched the scene unfold, a sinking feeling replacing his earlier bravado. Realizing the depth of his mistake, he approached James once more. "Look, man, we're sorry. We didn't mean to disrespect you," Alex admitted, his voice sincere. James met his apology with a warm smile. "Apology accepted," he said simply. The author's voice underscores, "See, sometimes all it takes is a little humanity to turn things around." The crowd's mood had completely transformed. Those who had once laughed and jeered now cheered and applauded. The contrast was stark. James's unwavering dignity had dismantled the tourists' entitlement in an instant. The author's voice adds a final touch of sarcasm. "Guess they finally got the memo. Respect isn't optional." James returned to his post, the weight of the morning's events settling comfortably on his shoulders. He adjusted his shako, the sunlight gleaming off his uniform, and resumed his stance with renewed pride. The author's voice concludes, "And just like that, tradition triumphed over modern arrogance. Who knew a little kindness could silence so much nonsense?" The atmosphere in Red Square shifted dramatically. What was once laughter and mockery from Alex and his friends transformed into stunned silence and growing disapproval. The crowd's reaction to Lieutenant James Wilson had flipped the script entirely. Tourists who had been gleefully taunting the guards now looked uneasy, realizing the gravity of their actions. Alex and his crew stood awkwardly, their bravado evaporating in the face of James's unwavering dignity. "This is getting out of hand," Alex muttered, scratching the back of his neck. His friends exchanged uncomfortable glances, sensing the shift in the crowd's mood. The author's voice cuts in sarcastically. "Oh, look who's feeling the heat now. Surprise, surprise!" James returned to his post, meticulously adjusting his shako with a newfound sense of pride. His movements were precise, each adjustment a silent affirmation of his commitment to tradition. The crowd began to murmur among themselves, many stepping forward to express their admiration. An elderly man approached, his eyes misting with respect. "You're a true hero, sir. Thank you for your honor and service," he said, placing a hand on James's shoulder. Meanwhile, Alex and his friends were being gently escorted away by other guards. Their earlier laughter had died down, replaced by hushed conversations and awkward smiles. "We were just having some fun," Rob, one of Alex's friends, tried to explain, but his voice lacked conviction. James looked back at him, his expression softening slightly. "Sometimes the best way to entertain yourself is to help someone in need," he replied with a hint of irony. The author's voice adds, "Well, isn't that a plot twist? From tormentors to apologies." As Alex and his group left the square, their actions became the subject of heated discussions, both in person and online. Social media exploded with clips of James's composed handling of the situation, garnering thousands of likes and heartfelt comments. "This guy is the real MVP," one commenter wrote. "Respect the tradition and the person behind it," another added. The author's voice sneers. "Guess they finally got the memo. Respect isn't optional." James resumed his post, his demeanor unshaken, yet visibly more resolute. Tourists who had once tried to provoke him now approached with genuine gratitude. A young woman handed him a small bouquet of flowers. "Thank you for helping my daughter," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. James accepted the gesture with a warm smile, nodding respectfully. "It was my honor," he replied, embodying the humility and grace expected of a royal guard. Amidst the respectful exchanges, one of the earlier troublemakers, Mike, who had tried to snap photos with James's hat, approached cautiously. With a sheepish grin, he asked, "Maybe next time we can just ask for an autograph?" James chuckled softly, the tension finally easing. "Only if you promise to respect our traditions," he responded, the corners of his mouth twitching upwards. The author's voice quips, "Finally, some common sense. Who knew an autograph could be the key to civility?" The crowd began to disperse, leaving behind an air of mutual respect and admiration. James stood tall, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only upheld the honor of the royal guard, but had also reminded everyone present of the importance of respect and tradition. The author's voice concludes, "And there it is, folks. A little dignity goes a long way in silencing the noise of modern arrogance." As the sun set over Red Square, James adjusted his uniform one last time, the gold buttons catching the fading light. He felt a profound satisfaction, knowing that despite the attempts to undermine him, he had maintained the integrity and honor of his position. The day's events had reinforced the timeless truth. True respect is earned through actions, not demanded through entitlement.